What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the State of the Sun Eater, where in this episode of the Book Binge, episode 59, I'm going over all things The Sun Eater by Christopher Ruocchio. This is an unofficial update video since I'm not Christopher Ruocchio and this is not the Sun Eater YouTube channel, but it is officially approved as of the first half of February in 2023. Now, a question that might be running through a few of your guys' minds at this point in the video is, what exactly does any of that mean? Well, I'll explain a little bit of that for you. Nearly all of the information that you will find in this video, with one exception that I'll get into a little bit later, was obtained via Christopher Ruocchio's various social media channels, his YouTube, and or his Patreon posts as of the past couple months. Very little of what you will find in this video is quote-unquote new information. It's mostly just compiling the scattered pieces of news and various announcements that have occurred over the past couple months and compiling it into one video. It was, however, I will note, all reviewed and approved personally by Ruocchio himself as of the day that I'm recording this to ensure that nothing I announce in this video is incorrect. And that leads me into the purpose of this video, which is, like I said, essentially to compile all of the notable Sun Eater news that we have gotten in the past couple of months, because there have been lots of questions about the future of the series, including from myself as of recent. There are plenty of announcements, including a little bit of exclusive information in this video that I was able to be among the first to hear of. And there was also a little bit of confusion recently about a particularly important aspect of the series. So this video is to clear all that information up, to compile everything into one video, and to get everything all into one place so that anybody who is curious about the state of the Sun Eater at this point in early 2023 can get all of the information in one spot and then move forward following Ruocchio's personal channels so that they can get the future updates as needed. So let's go ahead and start with the good news. Of course, the Sun Eater's completion has been something that has been a little bit in a messy condition the last few months, or however long it has taken Christopher Ruocchio to get negotiations taken care of with the rest of the series. Rest assured, to anybody who is reading the series and has not heard the news yet somehow, the Sun Eater's completion is guaranteed to us. Do not worry. Ruocchio and DAW Books, which published the first 5 books of the series in the US through Ashes of Man, is no longer going to be the publisher of Sun Eater. They retained the rights to the 5 books that they published, which we'll talk a little bit more in another section of this video. But the remainder of the series will not be published with them. Ruocchio was not able to come to any publishing agreement for the remainder of the series with them. And this, to an extent, had some of us viewers and readers worried about the series because we weren't sure what was going to happen with it. Was there going to be a 6th book? Was it going to be a 6th and a 7th book? Were they going to be published in any traditional format? Like, what was going to happen? No need to worry about that. Like I said, if you have not gotten this information yet, there will be a 6th and a 7th book to the series that will be published with Baen Books, which is a publisher that Christopher used to actually work for, editing anthologies and other whatnot, which is actually a very exciting prospect, especially since there was a misconception over the last few months that Ashes of Man was the final book in the series. Now, there are a couple good reasons why Ashes of Man was confused as being the final book in the series. First of all, because Sun Eater was originally planned to be 5 books, so Ashes of Man being the 5th book makes sense for some people to think that it might have been the end of it. As well, on top of that, you might see, I actually don't have the copy with me, but I have the dust jacket. The UK published edition of Ashes of Man, the 5th book, has in its dust jacket the words, "the 5th and final novel of the series." Let's see if I can get it to focus on that. The 5th and final novel of the galaxy-spanning Sun Eater series. So they inadvertently managed to get that passed through, all the different stages of the publishing process. Rest assured, like I said, Ashes of Man is not the final book in the series, so do not worry about that. Any readers who read through Ashes of Man and thought it was a disappointing ending, do not worry, it was not the ending. But of course, if you were paying attention to the very first chapter, the very first book, you would have probably guessed that it wasn't supposed to be the ending of the series, because the ending of the series still has a bit to go. And of course, on the exact same topic, there has been a title announcement as well for book 6 of the series. That it's Disquiet Gods. It is already announced, and as of the time of this video's release, it is around 85 to 90% completion, somewhere in that range. Christopher is expecting to finish writing the book in the first few days of March or so. And another bit of good news, I'm not 100% sure on the way they do this because I don't have experience with it. Christopher could explain it better if you were to ask him personally. But with Baen Books as the publisher of the last 2 books in the series, they tend to put out digital ARCs, so advanced review copies or advanced reader copies, depending on how you define ARC to mean. They tend to make those readily available months in advance of the books. So for those of you who will be anxiously waiting for book 6, there's a possibility that we'll have a pretty easy access to the ARC of that book come late in 2023. Even with all of that good news, there is a little bit of bad news for me to announce as well. The most obvious point that I can make here is that obviously we will have to wait a little bit longer for the conclusion of the series, but we will get it to the view that Ruocchio always wanted it to be. So the way that he was planning for the conclusion of the series to go was for it to be 2 books. He was trying to negotiate with Da Books to allow him 2 books to finish the series, but Da only wanted 1. That's why their negotiations did not work out. So for this conclusion, Ruocchio is writing it as 2 final installments, just the way that he had originally planned it, for quite a while at this point, which is always a good thing. We will be able to get book 6, hopefully in the first quarter of 2024, although that might be early in the second quarter of 2024. It depends on the timeline of the publishing schedule. The other bit of bad news on this front is that Da is going to be switching up the way that they publish stuff a little bit. Obviously, there is still no hardcover plans. If you have not gotten a chance to watch Christopher Ruocchio's video, I don't remember how recent it was. It was not that long ago. He did another video on his YouTube channel, which I will have in the description below, by the way, titled "Where Are the Hardcovers Again?", where he explains the state of the publishing for the books as of this moment. Da is choosing not to go forward with more hardcovers of the series. So if that's something you were hoping for reprints for, unfortunately, that is not something that we were going to get, which was something that I think Christopher has been pretty open with. For the time being, unfortunately, there's nothing that Christopher can really do about it. And the other bit of bad news for people like myself who are collectors and like matching editions of books, Da is not going to be doing mass market paperbacks for Kingdoms of Death or Ashes of Man. For whatever reason that is, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, you can go check out that Where Are the Hardcovers video on Ruocchio's channel. He goes into a little bit more detail on this front, but Da will not be doing mass market paperbacks for Kingdoms of Death or Ashes of Man. Instead, they will be doing trade paperbacks for those 2 books, and over the next year and a half or so, they will be rolling out trade paperback versions of Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, and Demon in White eventually. So eventually, there will be a matching set of the US editions of the Sun Eater, but as of this moment, unfortunately, there has yet to be any fully matching sets so far as I'm aware. So that's kind of a little bit of a sad thing, but that's more or less the end of the bad news. Thankfully, let's move on into a little bit more of the Sun Eater news beyond just the main tale of Hadrian in the main series of the Sun Eater. First off, Christopher Ruocchio has been hinting at for a little while now at some sort of secret project. Official announcement, he says, for that will be coming sometime in March, April at the latest, but we do have a little bit of confirmed information, being that there will be a short novelette, 3 chapters or so. I think he's a fan favorite character at this point, but there will be a tale story featuring Bassinder Lin confirmed to be part of the secret project. We don't know what else is going to be comprised of that. We'll have to wait until March or maybe April of this year to get the official announcement for that, but that is the state of that project. Currently, as of this moment, at the time of recording this video, Ruocchio is also currently writing a short story at the moment called The Royal Game. At the time of the video's release, he might have it finished by then. I'm not 100% sure, obviously, because it's going to be a few days in advance that I'm recording this. But that is going to be a short story for the Sun Eater, published with Grimdark Magazine. Now, unfortunately for us, looking forward to Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, this means that the Royal game will not be featured in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3 because Grimdark Magazine will have the rights to that story for a year, so it won't be in the next collection of Tales of the Sun Eater, but it might be in a future collection. But on the topic of Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, here we have a tiny bit of technically exclusive information because Ruocchio confirmed basically all of the stories that will be a part of Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3 as well as their current status. A couple of these titles have not been announced before. I was amongst the first to get to read a couple of these newer titles, so this is a little bit of exciting information. This is the table of contents, order not final, so the stories that I'm going to be listing here might change order between now and the publication of Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, but here are all of the stories that will be part of Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. Daughter of Swords. This is a story that is to be written after Ruocchio finishes Disquiet Gods, which is Sun Eater Book 6. Gutter Ballet, which has already been previously published in No Game for Knights. The Archanaut, which has already been published in Time Troopers. And Mother of Monsters, which has already been published in Worlds Long Lost. All three of those stories that appeared in those three mentioned anthologies were published by Baen Books. If I am remembering correctly, I might be incorrect on one of those. I apologize if I am, but those three were already featured in anthologies. Then there will be a story called A Parable of Iron. This one has already been written. There is one called Reincarnation, which is yet to be published in a future anthology, which we actually don't know much about. It was one that, according to Ruocchio, was actually meant to be published several months ago, but didn't get put out. So we don't know much about that one at this moment, but that is a story that will be featured in the collection. And then finally, After the Feast, which is another story that will be written after Ruocchio finishes Disquiet Gods. That is the state of Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. Following the writings of Daughter of Swords and After the Feast, there will be another novella centered around a fan favorite character, and this time I know he's a fan favorite character, Lorian, a novella around Lorian. It will be a sort of technical follow-up to The Lesser Devil and Queen Amid Ashes, which were, shorter stories that fit in the Sun Eater universe, but aren't really the main story. Like I said, this story is planned to be written after Daughter of Swords and After the Feast, and will be eventually collected by Anderida Books with Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, a la The Lesser Devil and Other Stories and Queen Amid Ashes and Other Stories, except this will be Lorian Novella, whatever the title is, and Other Stories comprised of that novella with Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. And then finally, the final announcement is that, just as I've mentioned multiple times up to this point in the video, there will be a 6th and a 7th book to the Sun Eater. There's no title announcement for Book 7 yet, and it will not be written until after the remainder of Tales Volume 3, as well as the Lorian novella. So we've got a little bit of the year to go before Ruocchio is able to start work on that. Of course, he's got to finish the first draft of Disquiet Gods first and foremost. But that is the end of all of the news that I got collected for this video today. Be on the lookout, of course, for any future announcements related to the Sun Eater, whether that be the completion of the first draft of Disquiet Gods, the secret project coming in the next couple months, all subsequent news related to short stories, the Bassender Lynn novelette, which is going to be part of the secret project, and the Lorian novella, all of that kind of stuff. You can keep track of all of that stuff from here on out more personally and more easily on Christopher Ruocchio's YouTube channel, which I said before is linked in the description below. So you guys can all get the inside scoop directly from here, or directly from him from here on out. As well, I would recommend checking out his Patreon as well, because earlier this month, I want to say it was like a week and a half ago or so, at the time of this video's release, Ruocchio actually made a post that compiled most of this information for me, which is a pretty nice one-stop shop for me to look and find most of the information that I needed, and then I just asked him questions personally about the rest of it to make sure that I didn't have any information incorrect. So if you want to follow his Patreon, his YouTube, social medias, whatever it may be, you'll be able to get all of the information from here on out just like that. The purpose of this video was just to compile the last couple months worth of news and announcements related to the Sun Eater and put it all into one space so that it's easier to find rather than having to find all the different bits and pieces in different locations based on when and where Ruocchio announced them. So if you watched this video, thank you for checking it out. I hope this clears up some of the confusion and some of the excitement, I guess, for the future of the Sun Eater. If you've somehow clicked on this video, and especially if you've gotten to this point without having read any of the books yet, please do it. You owe it to yourself, which is funny that I'm actually saying that since I'm recording this video less than 24 hours after finishing book 4, Kingdoms of Death, right there. And yeah, that was a trip. I guess I will leave it at that. Either way, if you are interested in my more detailed opinions on the individual books in the series, I have reviews for everything that I've read of the series up to this point, being Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, Demon in White, The Lesser Devil and Other Stories, and Queen Amid Ashes and Other Stories. And I will actually be having a review of Kingdoms of Death, speaking of Kingdoms of Death, up next week. So if you're interested in any of that, consider subscribing to the channel. And, if any future news of the Sun Eater comes out that I feel is worthy of speaking about, because the publisher change was definitely something that I wanted to talk about, so I decided to compile all the news as of recent. Consider checking out my channel as well as Ruocchio's channel if you are more interested in the Sun Eater specifically. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be back next week with a review of Kingdoms of Death.